and welcome back to the University of Law's podcast and to our 24 Questions in 24 series. My name is Emily and I'm the Clubs and Societies Coordinator, and today I'm joined by Joy. Hi Joy.
Hi.
Could you please introduce yourself to our listeners?
So my name's Joy Elson. I'm currently working as a legally qualified disability advocate for a social enterprise called PIP Professionals. It's a not-for-profit which is majority female-led and staffed and offers affordable online assistance with personal independence payments. My role is drafting mandatory reconsiderations for claimants, and I did the bar practice training course with a pro bono masters at the University of Law's Liverpool campus.
Fantastic, thank you very much. And what is your career ambition in the legal industry?
So my ambition is to become a criminal law barrister. I'd really like the opportunity to work with victims and witnesses, and I'd also quite like to uphold the rights of defendants in a way that's fair and understood by all communities.
Brilliant. And is that what first attracted you to pursue a career in law as a barrister, being able to advocate for people?
Yes, that's definitely part of it. As a baby, I was actually removed from my parents' care, and reflecting on that made me realise how important the work is that legal professionals do, because my own life could have been very different if it wasn't for the legal professionals that made that decision. I first visited court when I was in sixth form as well, and I found the whole experience of being in court really fascinating. I then did a gap year, and during my gap year I volunteered at the witness service at Birmingham Magistrates Court, and I found that supporting witnesses through the process of giving evidence in court was really rewarding to me. Even though at that point I was still quite unsure what kind of legal career I wanted to do, during my undergraduate studies I really enjoyed the debates modules that I undertook, and so that kind of drew me to undertake a career at the bar, because I really enjoyed the oral advocacy that the bar presented.
Wow, that's fantastic. And it's really great that you are wanting to pursue something because of your past. I think that's great that you've been able to sort of intertwine your passions with your experience. Are there any areas of law that have interested you the most? Would you say it's family law, or are you looking at a different route?
Yeah, so during my undergraduate studies, I really enjoyed children's rights debates module that I undertook, just because everyone had really different views on the topics that we considered, and I found that it really challenged my own views, and I got to practice my oral advocacy through debate on that module as well. But when I did the bar course, I really enjoyed developing my examination in chief and my cross-examination skills. And I found the criminal areas of law really interesting, and specifically I found learning about the rules of hearsay and making applications to adduce hearsay evidence really interesting, because it's something that you see all the time in legal dramas. So to actually get an understanding of how it actually works in real life was quite interesting.
That's great. And I think we can understand a bit more about your motivation to study there, and that's great. What do you think was your motivation to add the addition of the LLM, and how do you think that's enhanced your learning?
So in terms of cost, the price of adding an LLM to the course is significantly cheaper than studying a master's individually. And there's also a possibility to take out a student loan if you do a master's. So for a lot of people, it makes funding the bar course a viable option. For me personally, I felt that I wanted to increase my practical experience of the law, and I really liked that with the pro bono masters I was able to do this, and I've kind of felt that if I ever wanted to go into international criminal law or human rights law in the future, that a master's would be really useful for this. But completing the master's alongside the BPC has enhanced my learning actually more than I even realised that it would, because the pro bono masters required me to keep a reflective log of my experiences throughout the year, and it's something that's actually really important to do as a pupil and as a qualified barrister when you have to complete your continued practitioner development. And it kind of got me used to the stages of reviewing, recording, reflecting and reporting on my progress, and allowed me to kind of identify the gaps in my skills and knowledge and set a benchmark for my own progress. So that's something that was really useful about doing the Masters.
I think you've hit the nail on the head, really, when you were talking about the options for students with the addition of the student loan and everything like that. I think that's fantastic, and the way that you've been able to enhance your learning more than you imagined is great as well, so that you've got the best of both worlds, really.
Exactly.
Which route to qualification did you choose for your masters, and why? Did you go for pro bono clinics or dissertation or additional modules?
So I chose to undertake the pro bono clinics primarily because I wanted to gain more applicable skills of how the law worked in practice rather than exploring another area of academic interest. So I found the opportunity to kind of undertake legal experience for real clients in the pro bono clinics really exciting.
I think that's a really smart idea. So to learn a bit more about yourself, can you walk us through a typical day in your life as a BPC student at the University of Law?
So a typical day would involve probably planning and organising your time and workload for that week, preparing for any tutorials coming up in the week by going through your pre-reading, any research and completing any activities or questions that have been set, and then attending any tutorials that are scheduled for that day. And then once that tutorial is over, consolidating that work by updating your notes, testing your knowledge, and in my case, probably practicing your oral advocacy skills by forcing a family member or a friend to act as your witness and role play a bit of that with you.
That's great. And have your family, have they welcomed the idea of coming in as your witness, or has it been challenging, or are they just happy to go along with the ride?
I think that one or two times is a bit fun and exciting, and then after that is like, haven't you had enough practice?
Well, at least it shows your dedication, so that's
Yeah.
great. So have you undertaken any mini pupillages, and can you walk us through your experience and the value of and importance of gaining the experience in the industry during your study?
Yes, so I've actually undertaken a fair few mini pupillages, and I've also undertaken some marshalling experiences as well. So that's when you shadow a judge at court. And I've got some lined up for the future as well. So through the mini pupillages and marshalling experiences I've had so far, I've had insight into employment law, medical negligence, civil and criminal law. And these mini pupillages have provided me with so much practice of areas that you'd be expected to do as a barrister. So, for example, I've got to practice totaling quantum and also drafting effective and proportionate Part 35 questions from an expert's report and things like that. And observing conferences by barristers gave me insight into how a barrister effectively assesses the merits of a case and how they kind of communicate that decision or that opinion to clients effectively, as well as how judges can strategize to ensure a fair and effective trial. And also, it's given me insight into ethical issues which come up at the bar and how these can be handled in practice by barristers. So really, it's been quite invaluable to me to kind of be able to assess my own career motivations in law and to help me consider which area of law would be most suited to my own career goals as well.
Well, it sounds like you've already got enough experience and you don't even need this course. It seems like you've got more experience than barristers themselves.
I definitely would not say that.
So I've got here that you're an advocate for diversity and inclusion, and I know you mentioned it a little bit at the beginning. And you're an advocate so much that you co-founded the Diversity in Law Society at your undergraduate university.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit more about where that passion stemmed from and how you hope to influence positive change in this area in the future?
So I co-founded and was president for the Diversity in Law Society, which we kind of set up in response to the Black Lives Matter movement. During that time, I identified a gap for a safe and inclusive space for law students to speak about their experiences and the beginning of their journey into law. So throughout my time at university, I benefited from support from widening participation and social mobility organisations such as Upreach. And I wanted to give some of that support back as well. And as well as setting up the Diversity in Law Society, I did that through roles such as acting as a mentor for the platform Zero Gravity and as a student advocate for my undergraduate university. So continuing to act as a mentor in the future as my career progresses is something that I think will enable me to influence positive change, because I feel that social mobility is really crucial for promoting diversity and inclusion. And as a disability advocate in my current role, I'm increasing my awareness of how best to support clients with different needs. So, for example, I've had training around ADHD and autism, and I'm currently undertaking some training around hidden disabilities. So I feel that these kind of skills will be vital to allow me to contribute to greater access to justice and strong client care for more vulnerable clients in the future when I do qualify as a barrister. And as an Anthony Walker and CPS scholar, I've kind of become aware of the different networks that the CPS has to support diversity and inclusion, such as the National Black Crown Prosecutors Association. So I envisage that these kind of networks as well will be really useful for continuing my contribution to promoting diversity and inclusion.
I think that's absolutely incredible to even have the initiative to go and attempt making change at something that you're passionate about. I think that's really incredible. And obviously, as clubs and societies coordinator, I'm glad that you were part of a society.
Yeah.
Just from the University of Law's perspective, or from societies in general, have you got any advice for people that have a passion for something and just don't know where to start in terms of forming a society?
Yeah, I'd say just take the first small step. That's always the hardest. Talk to your student union members, talk to your tutors. If you've got an idea, that's where it starts, with an idea. Go and speak to someone, get some advice if you want to start one up, because you probably think it would be really difficult or it's going to be really challenging. Maybe you think you don't have the time, but actually it might be a bit easier than you think. So I think just go for it, take that first step and speak to someone and see what you can do.
Brilliant, thank you for that. And I think that's a really good point. Once you've made the first step, I think it gets much easier once you've found some like-minded people that are willing to do it with you. I know you're the recipient of 2 scholarships, the Anthony Walker Foundation with the CPS and Inner Temple. How did you find the process of applying, and how did you feel when you found out you'd won?
So when I applied for both scholarships, I was actually on my study year abroad in Italy, and it was also not too long after the onset of the pandemic. So my interviews and my presentations for both of my scholarships were online, and that was something I was a bit less used to at the time than I am now, so it was a bit daunting. So I tried to really examine kind of what my personal motivations for a career in law was, and also to kind of envisage what my future in the field would look like. During my Inner Temple scholarship interview, I actually had connectivity issues with the internet, and that was really nerve-wracking. But I did remain calm and I tried different things to kind of resolve it. And the panel were really understanding of that, and I think that probably showed through to them. So I'd say if you do have any problems or anything like that, just always try and stay calm. But both interviews were really stimulating because they both involved advocacy exercises where I was tested on my ability to argue and persuade. So that was really interesting, actually. And then when I found out that I was awarded both scholarships, I was completely shocked because I didn't really think that I had a serious chance of actually getting them. I just thought that it was something that I really wanted, so I'd give it my best shot. I also kind of had this idea that the bar's very elitist, or that a specific kind of person would have access to a successful career at the bar. But I've come to realise since kind of doing the course that that can actually be quite an inaccurate perception, and that really there are so many different routes to a career at the bar or law.
I think what you've said just then is completely testament to, if you want something hard enough, then you will definitely get it. So achieving 2 scholarships is fantastic. I know you touched on that your study abroad was at the onset of the pandemic, but how was it studying in Italy? Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it was amazing. I'm so glad that I did it, even with the pandemic, and also with Brexit actually made it a bit more difficult to get a visa and things like that. But it was worth every minute of it, definitely.
Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I always see people going on their study abroad years and it always looks fabulous. So I'm glad that you got to do it. So have you used any of the support services at this university? And how did they help you? For example, employability or well-being?
Yes, so I've frequently used the employability service actually for interview advice, help with interview questions, feedback on applications that I've submitted, whether those be successful or not, attending advice sessions. And I've actually found so many opportunities as well from the bar mailing list. So that's something that our future pupil employability coordinator sends out. And the careers advisor that we have at the University of Law Liverpool campus, Catherine Meehan, she goes above and beyond to answer my emails after I've had an interview on how to approach a specific interview question, or if I've come across anything which I'm not too sure about. And in my current role as a disability advocate, I'm pretty sure that I found that through the Job Teaser app on the employability portal. So without the employability service, I actually wouldn't have the job that I do have now. So it's really been vital for where I am.
I'm so glad that you found use out of those employability teams. I think they're absolutely incredible, and everyone that I've spoken to has always sung their praises about them. So I'm so glad that they've been able to help you as well.
Yeah, they've been invaluable.
Oh, good. And it's always nice to get a little staff shout out as well. So that's great. What advice would you give to other students thinking about pursuing a career at the bar?
I would say if you're seriously considering pursuing a career at the bar, then you've probably heard a million people say that the course is really difficult, that it's such a risk to take because so few students get pupillage, and that it's really expensive to fund. That can all be true. But if you do want it, then I think don't let those things deter you, because actually everyone's path is completely different and there are so many different ways to fund the course. So, for example, scholarships are just one of those ways. And there are going to be rejections, challenges, really difficult days. But if you have the determination and the effort to kind of stick with it, put in the hard work, then it will all pay off eventually. So just believe in yourself. Put the hard work in, and then just remember to relax, not worry about it.
I think that's a really key part of it, that you can only do so much, and if you put your mind to it, then your work will speak for itself. So I think that's really important. So I've just got some outro questions for you now, just for a bit of fun after the grilling that I've just given you. So if you could make one change in the world, what would it be?
I think it would be to end hate crime. I've got family and friends that have been affected by it. And being the recipient of the Anthony Walker Scholarship, I'm so grateful to have been awarded that. And I stand in solidarity with the mission of the Anthony Walker Foundation to eradicate racism, hate, and all forms of discrimination.
That is a very good answer. I think one thing that the world needs less of is disrespect towards each other. So that is definitely something that I can get behind. You're hosting a dinner party. Name one guest, dead or alive, who you would like to invite and why.
I think I'd invite Louis Theroux because he's interviewed and visited so many different people from different walks of life that I feel like he's probably got loads of crazy stories to share and some really well-informed opinions and probably quite controversial topics that we could debate. And I quite admire how he builds a rapport with his interview subjects and subtly challenges their way of thinking, which they can be quite receptive to sometimes.
That is a really good answer. He is one person that I would love to speak to. I think the way that he is able to adapt the way that he speaks to his panelists is always so amazing. I watched his interviews with Stormzy and with Ray, and I think it's so amazing how he's able to pull stories out of them that they definitely wouldn't have wanted to share with anyone else.
Maybe he'll be your next podcast guest.
Oh, I wish. I'll send him an email. What's your favourite movie?
I would say Gone Girl is definitely up there in my top 5.
Great answer. Any psychological thriller, absolutely incredible. Ones that get you to think. I think that's the best kind of movie, when you don't know what's going to happen. What's your favourite way to relax, if you even can relax?
I like watching funny videos on TikTok. I like doing my hair and skincare routine as well. And if I'm feeling really fancy and pushing the boat out, then I quite like a spa day.
Oh, very nice. That is a very good plan. If you were stranded on a desert island and could only take 3 items, what would they be?
Well, I think this counts as 2 items. I'd take a pen and a paper so that I could keep myself entertained by drawing and writing things. And I think you could keep a record of things that would help you to survive on the islands, like where different resources are, or draw a map of where to get to different things. And my third thing would be prescription goggles, because I'm a contact lens wearer. So I'd be able to swim in the sea and still be able to see.
That's a really good idea, and at least you'd know when the sharks are there and when to stay away. What's your favourite place to travel to, or what's one place that you'd love to go to?
So after doing my study abroad in Bologna in Italy, I would have to say Italy, because I did do so much travelling while I was on my year abroad. But there's so many more places that I still wanted to see and I didn't get a chance to in the space of a year. So definitely go back to Italy and tick more places off there.
Brilliant. I think that's a great idea. And Italy's so close to us, yet it's so different and it's so beautiful. So yeah, good plan going back and seeing there. Who do you admire most and why?
I would have to say my cousin, Aaron, because he's an extremely disciplined person. He's very determined. He's got a very strong work ethic as well, and he encourages me to set big goals for myself. And he's also taught me principles to apply to my life that have significantly contributed to my personal and professional development.
That's really nice. I think when I ask this question, a lot of people automatically think celebrities, and I think it's really lovely that you've been able to link that to someone who's in your personal life, so that's great. And I've got one last question for you. What advice would you give to your 18-year-old self?
Well, it's probably not going to be applicable to every 18-year-old, but if it was to me personally, it would definitely be to learn to drive, because being my age and unable to drive and learning now is not fun, and I wish I'd done it a lot sooner.
Well, at least you've been doing many other great things instead of learning to drive, so I don't think you can be too hard on yourself on that one. So that is the end of the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, Joy.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been great.
Good, I'm glad you've enjoyed it. And thank you to our listeners. If you would like to learn more about our courses, please visit us at law.ac.uk. Do also follow us to keep up to date for our next episode. Thank you for listening.